All right, so I just got an opportunity to playtest with What Remains of Edith Finch, and wow, some interesting gameplay. Can you tell us a little bit about the concept of the game and what Edith Finch is about?
Sure. So it's a collection of short stories set in Washington State. You play as Edith returning to her childhood home. She was last here when she was a child. She's coming back with a lot of questions. She has some childhood memories that she's sort of looking for the answers to. And she's from this tragic family, this sort of eccentric family with a lot of tragic history, such that in the family there's a lot of death. And basically whenever someone dies in the family, they seal their bedroom up like a time capsule, and they build another bedroom on top for the next person. So once you start sealing doors, all you can do is build, is go up. So as Edith, you're coming back to the house. It's sort of a march through time, march through her family history, finding your way into these sealed up rooms of your ancestors, uncovering a story about how they passed away found inside their room, and then you jump into their perspective and you play out the final moments of their life from their eyes. And each one of those stories is a totally different set of game mechanics. And so it's sort of a big collection of games wrapped within exploring a house and a constant series of surprises until you're done.
This game had me visualizing Gone Home. Does this have some? I know it has a little bit of similarities, but were you thinking in first-person genre with like the lettering and how that comes up on the screen? What was the thought process in the development of that?
So yeah, so I think what you're describing is in the world as Edith speaks. There's sort of text that appears physically in the world, and it starts. The game opens. You're on a ferry, and you open Edith's journal. And she starts describing, and then you're going into the journal, and so the whole sort of the feeling is wanting to feel like you're playing a book in a way that you just kind of keep tunneling, and you getting lost in it, and it's sort of driving your imagination and sort of letting your thoughts sort of travel, and so creating that feeling, have it feel like a book come to life, while also using the sort of interactive vignette short story structure to not just be walking around, but to sort of divert the gameplay into all these sort of like magical realist opportunities where you're doing one thing in one and a totally different thing in another. You're in the 1940s in one, you're in the 2000s in another, because the family's multi-generational, so every layer of the house is a different generation. And naturally you can imagine that Edith's room, being the last Finch family member left alive, is at the very top, and so you're sort of marching through to sort of uncover that family history. Yeah.
It was so cool because when I'm looking through the peepholes in the doors, it's like you get a little picture of the person, and then at the end when I saw the book and it was written, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get a chance to see that person's life eventually down the line. Sure. So how far out does the lineage go? Or
so the earliest, the sort of earliest character that you meet is back in the 1800s, late 1800s, and that's Odin. This family, their sort of history has them, basically traveling from abroad to America, establishing, building up the house, and so there's this point back in time, and this sort of tragic history has always sort of been with them, and so they're kind of like, in some ways, they're also sort of trying to get away from this thing. They're building up, they're trying, climbing, but sort of they constantly end up suffering some sort of fate, to the point that they're perceived or are cursed. Right, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the studio. I know that this is a PS4 exclusive, correct?
So it's not a PS4 exclusive. It's PS4 and PC. Awesome. Coming out in spring, so right around the corner. The studio's Giant Sparrow. If you guys ever played The Unfinished Swan, another game where the gameplay itself, over the course of playing it, changes and twists, and you're doing one, you're splattering paint in one, and then you're building geometry in another. This similarly has a sort of similar quality where you're just constantly unfolding, and we're with Annapurna. That's a sort of new company started by some of our friends that sort of came over from Sony and started Annapurna, and sort of we naturally went with them, people that had sort of stood by the game and championed it for a long time. And so even at the publisher level, people with like really good taste, people that had input on Swan, had input on Journey, had input on all those games that with that sort of Sony Santa Monica lineage coming over and starting Annapurna.
I noticed that in the gameplay, it's very intuitive to realize what you have to do next with the little white ball. Was that a conscious decision in order to try to help the gameplay along, or was it something that you kind of played with and made the decision?
So as you probably saw, the world's extremely dense, and I think it's important that, as we're going through, we kind of have a system where we tune things where and I think maybe we tune these a little more before we release, but essentially feeling like you take in a room, you get interested in something, you walk toward it already wanting to be interested, and then there pops up and interact, and it's like, oh, okay, I can actually engage with this thing. And really it's just a way to sort of help parse the amount of density in the world, because like you walk into the rooms, it should feel kind of overwhelming, like the whole game should feel overwhelming. You're meeting all of these characters, you're going through all these time periods, you're doing all of these things, so that by the time you're done, it should feel like you kind of got hit with a wave, and you're like out there looking back like at all the things that you've done and how far you've come, and however short amount of time, and sort of just kind of similar to death. Like each of the stories, they end in a death, but hopefully that enables players to sort of appreciate the moment that they're in and sort of let that go and enjoy that, and hopefully just by playing through, when the game's done, they're looking back at it and just thinking about everything they went through, and the fact that there is so much density here, there is so much interconnectedness and cross-referencing in the house that you might have to play through it a few times before you really take stock of just how much information is being thrown your way and maybe going over your head the first time through. Yeah.
Just in the short playthrough, I was looking, and like you're talking about the density, I'm seeing the papers that say missing on the ground. I'm trying to figure out who the person is that's missing. Right. Then I'm looking at the doors, I'm looking at the numbers on like when the year was that they were there. It seems like you're trying to do and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that and allowing your audience to kind of play through it themselves, right. And they can get some things in the beginning, maybe they won't
right.
get some things, and replayability is huge, and the fact that you can do that in this game is fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you. Again, we're with What Remains of Edith Finch, and we're super excited for gameplay. Thank you again.